Hi everyone, let's talk about MuleSoft and why it's such a powerful tool in today's digital world. MuleSoft is basically an integration platform. Think of it as a smart connector that helps different applications, systems, and devices talk to each other. Whether it's SaaS applications like Salesforce or SAP, mobile apps on Android or iOS, or even backend databases like Oracle, MySQL, or Amazon Redshift, MuleSoft can seamlessly connect them all. It also supports integration with REST APIs, SOAP services, and other downstream systems. Now, the real magic of MuleSoft comes from something called API-led connectivity. API-led connectivity is built on three distinct layers. Experience layer, top. This sits at the top. Process layer, middle. In the center, we have the process layer. System layer, bottom. At the foundation is the system layer. System layer, MuleSoft connects directly to backend systems like Salesforce, SAP, or a database. It allows you to fetch, post, or update data, making it the foundation of all integrations. Process layer, this is where the orchestration happens. It combines data from multiple systems, applies business logic, and ensures smooth information flow between applications. Experience layer. This layer acts like a wrapper. It makes APIs easier for front-end apps or users to consume without giving them direct access to back-end systems. Together, these layers make integration faster, more secure, and reusable across different projects. But MuleSoft doesn't just stop at connectivity, it also gives you the tools to design, manage, secure, and monitor APIs across their entire lifecycle. At the center of all this is the Anypoint platform, which includes Design Center, where you design and prototype APIs, Anypoint Exchange, a central marketplace of APIs, connectors, and templates for reuse, API Manager, where you secure and govern your APIs with policies, Anypoint Monitoring, to track API performance, traffic, and errors, Runtime Manager, to deploy and manage APIs across cloud, on-premises, or hybrid setups. A typical MuleSoft development flow. Now, let me walk you through what a typical MuleSoft project looks like, step by step. Requirement gathering. The developer receives a new integration requirement from the business. API design. Using the Design Center, the developer defines the API skeleton using RAML or OS specifications. Publishing to Exchange. Once the design is ready, it's published to Anypoint Exchange so it can be reused and discovered by other teams. Implementation in Anypoint Studio. The design is then imported into Anypoint Studio, where the developer builds the actual API and adds integration logic. Deployment. The API is deployed using Runtime Manager to either cloud or on-premises environments. Auto Discovery API Management. Through API Manager, the deployed API is linked back to the design for governance, security, and policy enforcement. Monitoring. Finally, using Anypoint monitoring, the API's performance, transactions, and errors are tracked to ensure everything runs reliably and securely. Publishing to Exchange. Once the design is ready, it's published to Anypoint Exchange so it can be reused and discovered by other teams. Implementation in Anypoint Studio. The design is then imported into Anypoint Studio, where the developer builds the actual API and adds integration logic. Deployment. The API is deployed using Runtime Manager to either cloud or on-premises environments. Auto Discovery API Management. Through API Manager, the deployed API is linked back to the design for governance, security, and policy enforcement. Monitoring. Finally, using Anypoint monitoring, the API's performance, transactions, and errors are tracked to ensure everything runs reliably and securely. Alright, let's log into the Anypoint platform and Anypoint Studio for a quick demo. We've already discussed the key components, now let's see them in action. Go to Design Center. Inside the Design Center, we have several options for creating a new project. New project from scratch, new API, specification, new fragment, new async API, new project from existing source. Import from file sync from an existing Git repository. For this demo, I'll keep it simple and create a new API specification. Let's call this project Hello World. Add documentation details. Now we'll add the basics. Documentation, description, protocols, version, media type. The great thing about Design Center is that it even gives recommendations to guide you through your API design journey. Define API resources next. Let's add resources HTTP methods, resource types, and a basic API skeleton. Once the API design is ready, we move to the next step, publish to Exchange. Now let's publish the API to Anypoint Exchange. Remember, MuleSoft supports two API lifecycle stages, developmental stable. For now, I'll publish this API to the developmental stage. Once published, we can see all the API details inside the Exchange page. Register in API Manager. Here's a common mistake developers make. If you try to create an API directly in API Manager from the developmental stage, you won't see it listed. The rule is your API needs to be in the stable stage before you can register and manage it in API Manager. So once our API is moved to stable, we can create it in API Manager. Initially, it appears in the unregistered state, waiting to be linked with the deployed implementation. Development in Anypoint Studio. Now let's jump into Anypoint Studio. Here, we create a new project and import the RAML specification from Exchange. From there, we can build out the integration logic, test, and eventually deploy it. I will go through each step in my upcoming video. Thank you for watching.